Hey 5th grade, it's Mrs. Gyoka with your flipped math lesson for today, 7-2. Today's objective is I can estimate quotients, which is, remember, that's the answer to a division problem. So I can estimate quotients and use reasoning to compare the size of the quotient to the size of the divisor and the dividend. So here's our first problem. Suppose you purchase a game system for $473.89. About how much did you save for a year if you saved the same amount each month? Okay, and so for that, it's asking us how much did you save the same amount each month. So if you save the same amount each month for a year, there are 12 months in a year, then how much would it be for just 1 month? Okay, so that's the question that it's asking us. The important information we have is, well, we have the total amount that you'd have to save for $473.89. We know that it's 12 months, okay? So if I were going to draw this problem out, let's say that this is the amount of money that you'd have to save, $473.89, and I could break it into 12 different sections and then show the problem with a picture that way, okay? 10, 11, and 12. Now, I need to know how much was each of these sections by itself. So for that, of course, I'm going to use division. If I were going to write the equation, it would look like this. 473.89 divided by 12 equals, and then we're trying to find out how much that would equal. Now, before we actually learn how to do these problems, today we're going to learn how to estimate the answer. Just find the estimated answer, not the actual answer. Okay? If you find the actual answer, then you are not following along and doing what today's assignment is. We're just estimating the answers. To do that, we're going to use compatible numbers, rounding. We're also going to use number sense and reasoning. That just means what makes sense. Okay? So if we're going to round, using rounding to estimate our answer, let's round both of these numbers. So 473.89, I'd probably round that to maybe 500. I can round it all the way up to 500 because 473 is pretty close to 500. And then 12, could round that to 10 because it's not very far away from 10. Now, 10s are very easy for us to divide by. We learned that yesterday. So if I had 500 and divided that by 10, then I would move the decimal point only one place. So my answer is going to be close to about 50. Okay? So that's one way you can find the answer. You can also use compatible numbers. So in this one I said think of multiples of 12. If you think of your multiples of 12, you'll know 12, 24, 36, 48, and so on. Now, the reason this might help you, I'll write those down real quick, is because one of the numbers in our problem is 12, right? 36, 48. So if one of the numbers in our problem is 12, then I'm going to change the other number, the dividend, to be a multiple of 12 that's close. I see 47 right here, that's pretty close to 48. So I'm going to change 473.89 to 480 and divide that by 12. Okay? And use what I know about division from our last unit in division. I'm going to look for this and then I'll annex the 0. So 48 divided by 12 is 4. Annex the 0 and I get 40. Remember, before we got 50 as our answer, and this time we have 40 as our answer. So it's probably going to be somewhere between 40 and 50, the actual answer would be. Okay, here's some other examples of how we can use reasoning, compatible numbers, and estimating. Okay, so let's use rounding for this one. The question asks, is 0.45 divided by 23, is it greater than 1? Okay, is the answer or the quotient going to be greater than 1? So let's use some reasoning to figure this out. If I had 0.45 divided by 23, that's what it's asking us. is this answer up here going to be less than 1? Okay, so if that helps you to kind of see the problem, you could write it like that. Or I could take a picture and draw a picture. 0.45, I'm going to round that up to 0.5. 0.5 is the same thing as a half of something. So let's say I've got a candy bar here, and I have half of it. Gave away this half. The other half I get to keep. Okay. Now I've got to share it with 23 students. I'm going to divide it by 23, and I'm going to share it with 23 people. Okay. I'm not going to make that exact, but say I shared it with 23 people. Is each one of these sections going to be greater than 1 or less than 1? Well, it's going to be less than 1, right? So my answer is 0.45 divided by 23 greater than 1? No, it's not. It's less than 1. And the truth is that there's a little trick that you can remember, as I'm trying to get rid of these things, that if you divide a number, and the number that you're dividing, the dividend, if it is smaller, whoops, that was 23. If it is smaller than the divisor, so if this number is smaller than that number, then the answer is always going to be less than 1. Okay? It'll always be less than 1. So let's try something else. Let's use some compatible numbers to divide. So here we've got 2 decimals, 34.2 divided by 6.8. So I'm going to just change these to some compatible numbers. I'm going to start with the 6.8. I'm going to just round that up to 7. Remember, when we use compatible numbers, when we divide, let's look for some multiples of 7. I know 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Oh, 35 is awfully close to this number 34.2. So I'm just going to round it up to, 35. I've got 7 on my brain. 35 divided by 7 equals 5. So my answer here should be close to 5. 34.2 divided by 6.8 is probably going to be close to 5. Let's practice. Estimate each quotient. You can use rounding or compatible numbers. So we're going to do these together. 42 divided by 2.8. Okay, so 42, I'm going to leave that the same for a minute. I'm going to change that 2.8 to 3. And then I'd have 42 divided by 3. Now, in order to find the multiples of 3, in order to see if this number is a multiple of 3, what I can do is a little trick where you add up each digit together and the number that you're trying to figure out if it's a multiple of 3. And if you add it up, 4 plus 2, that equals 6. 6 is a multiple of 3. You know the multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. 6 is a multiple of 3, so 42 is a multiple of 3. That's just an easy little trick. Okay, so since 42 is a multiple of 3, then I can just do some really quick division over here. And pull that down. And I see that 42 divided by 3 is 14. Okay, so my estimated answer is going to be 14. Let's try number 2. 102 divided by 9.6. Okay, so I'm going to round that 9.6 up to 10. I'm going to go ahead and take the 102 and I'm going to change it to 100, round that down. Okay, so now I have 100 divided by 10. Remember, that's really easy. We learned yesterday how to move that decimal over just one place. There's 1 0 in 10. So we're going to move that decimal point over one place. But you should also know that 10 times 10 equals 100. So our estimated answer is 10. Number 3, 48.9 divided by 4. Okay, I'm going to take the 4. I'm going to go ahead and round that up to 5 because I see 48 is pretty close to 50. Okay, I'm sorry, 5th graders. I got a little distracted, so let me just double check. So I've changed that 58.9 to 50, and then I have rounded the 4 up to 5. So 50 divided by 5 is 10. So my estimate is that the answer is going to be close to 10. Okay, number 4, 72.59 divided by 7. So I'm going to round. I'm going to round this number down to 72, and I know 72 is a multiple of 8, so I'm going to go ahead and round that up to 8 and just use that as a compatible number, and 72 divided by 8 is 9. So 9 is my estimate for this answer. Okay, use estimation to decide if each quotient is greater or less than 1. Okay, so I have 2 problems here. I'm just finding out if the quotient is going to be greater or less than 1. So on problem A, I have 0.2 divided by 4. So that means if I were going to put that in a division box, it would look like this. 0.2 divided by 4. Okay, it's not the other way around. This means that I have something that's less than 1 being divided into 4 parts. And if I start with something that is less than 1, then my answer is going to be less than 1. Okay, every time that you divide this number and it is smaller than the divisor, if the dividend is smaller than the divisor, that means the quotient is always going to be less than 1. Always. Okay. On answer B, let me make sure I've got room here. On answer B, I have 1.35 divided by 0.06. So on this one, I have, if I were going to make a division box, this time it's the other way around. I have 1.35 divided by 0.6. Okay, so this time the dividend is bigger than the divisor. So I have to do a little bit more thinking to see if it's going to be less than 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and round these numbers. So I'm going to round 1.35, and I'm going to round that to, let's say, 1.2, because that looks an awful lot like 12 divided by 0.6. Okay, and then I know that 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that my answer for B is going to be greater than 1. Okay, I'm guessing it's probably around 2, but my answer is going to be greater than 1. The biggest reason for that is not necessarily because of this that I figured out right there, but because the divisor, or the dividend, is bigger than the divisor. Okay, over here, the dividend was smaller than the divisor, so the answer is less than 1. If the dividend is bigger than the divisor, then the answer is going to be greater than 1. Okay, so over here, less than 1. Oops, sorry, I put 1 on the wrong side. Less than 1, and then on the other one, it's greater than 1. Okay, let's try another one. Your turn. Okay, you're going to estimate each quotient. Remember, you're going to do each problem, pause the video, and then we'll check it together. So number 6, 7 divided by 0.85. Remember to round for compatible numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change 0.85. I'm just going to round it all the way up to 1. It's not very far from 1. And then I've got 7 divided by 1 is 7. Okay, not too hard, right? Let's try number 7. 9.6 divided by 0.91. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and round 0.91 up to 1. It's really close to the number 1, round it up to 1. And then I'm going to round 9.6 to 10. Then I have 10 divided by 1, and that equals 10. Okay, number 8. 17.7 divided by 3.2. Okay, I'm going to round 3.2 to 3. I'm going to round 17.7 all the way up to 18. Okay, this is just regular rounding. I looked at the bossy neighbor and then rounded that number up. I looked at that bossy neighbor, rounded that number up. And that's just rounding. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, number 9. 91.02 divided by 4.9. Okay, I'm going to round 4.9 is really close to 5. 91.02 is very close to 90. So I'm going to round that to 90, and then I have 90 divided by 5. And then I can do this division in my head, but if you can't, you could just quickly write it out. 5 goes into 9 one time. And so 90 divided by 5 is 18. Okay, so my answer is 18. All right, we are finished for today. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.